So here you can see the hair of the angel rests beautifully in this circle. The length of the nose from the middle of the circle to 1/4. So the nose length is 1/4 of the length of the face in the icon. The eyes resting on the middle line, hanging sort of down from that. And then from the middle to the upper quarter is where the hairline comes to. And that gives that very distinctive Byzantine icon look, the proportions of the face. And you can see the 3 blue circles, which are basically you've drawn the seed of life, and then you've got either side of the petals a line going down and then a line in the center. So we've got these 3 lines. You can see the blue line here, and the blue circles are centered on those where those lines intersect, the middle line and the 3 vertical lines. And you can see that the ear here is resting on that blue circle. The hairline there is on the 2nd blue circle, and then the edge of the eye is on the 3rd blue circle. We've got the mouth just below there, about 1/3 of the way between the bottom of the nose and the chin. And you can see how that garment is sort of resting on that. Now I should explain, you can see the way that this garment, you can see how this garment is sort of sweeping this way. That's the distortion from the photograph. So I say this is on a curved surface. I wanted to get the face, and we can play with the garments anyway, but just to say that is off center because of the distortion in the original photograph. So this is the analysis that I'm going to work from. So I'm going to take some thin paper. Now you could use tracing paper, but I find tracing paper is just a little too thin, and it's a bit often just too much of a smooth surface. So what I use is this layout pad, drafting paper. You can buy rolls of it. This is what they call a layout pad. When I put that over the top, you can see through the geometry, but I've got a good paper surface for my initial sketch. So I'm going to fold this into half. Then I can slip this inside here like that. Now, fortunately, the size of my board means that this design goes on an A4 piece of paper. You can use the geometry to make your board proportionate as you wish. So you might want to have a really big one, or you might want a really small one. Doesn't matter. You've got the geometry, and you just shrink yours or enlarge your circle to fit. You can also use a square board. I'm using an arch board. I like arch boards. I think they've got a sort of pleasing finish to them. There's an elegance to them, especially when you're just doing a bust, because that halo will fit nicely within that space and the body sits beneath it. So I've got an arch board. You can use a square board or oblong board. You could make a square board and just do the face. You could just say, I'm going to make a little study. So rather than trying to do everything, you could just cut it down and just do the face. But use the proportions that you've been given here to work out a pleasing arrangement. So if you do a square board, you need to leave a little space between the halo and the edge, and you need to do the same at the bottom. So you proportionately place your composition. So don't just fill the board. The space needs to breathe with the image. It's like if you have a cup, for example, you've won, I don't know, the FA Cup or something, and you want to display it in a cabinet. You have a plinth, a base for it, and you place it on the plinth. Presents it. It gives it an ability. So in the same way, when you're designing the size of your board and the proportions of your image, you need them to speak. The board is there to serve the saint. The icon serves the saint. It is the door that opens the presence of the holy person into the world in which we live. So this is going to be a threshold on which somebody in prayer can encounter Raphael and ask for his help, thank him for his assistance and so on. So it's important to understand how the board works. Sometimes people take a board and they say, oh, I'll put the head in the middle. Well, if you're dealing with, say, a rectangular shape and you put it in the middle, it looks like it's sinking. It really needs to be placed up into the upper half of the rectangle and really held by the proportions of the width to the length, and then, as it were, the bit at the bottom sort of holding it.